Today is August the 28th, 2019, and we are at the Bruce R. Watkins Cultural Heritage Center. Today, I have the opportunity to interview Bruce Riley Watkins, Jr. How are you today, Bruce?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good.
Good.
This is a special interview for me. This is a relative of mine. Could you tell the community how the Watkins actually arrived to Kansas City, Missouri?
Well, Oralee, we are currently in the process of telling that culture and history through a series of documents and manuscripts that we're preparing now through the Marion and I are preparing through the Watkins Historic Preservation Group, also in conjunction with the Aviation Department of Kansas City, Missouri. The Watkins family actually story, the last 200-year history originated in Platte County on the grounds of the 11,000 acres of the current existing KCI airport.
Okay. So where did you grow up? In Platte County?
No, I grew up here in Kansas City, Missouri. Also, I was born at KU Medical Center. My mother was also Kansas born, and then the family kind of integrated into Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay. What was your childhood like when you guys moved to Kansas City?
Well, I lost my mother at an early age when I was 13 years old. So through a series of separations and remarriages, we moved at that time with my dad. So since we were very young, we were always a part of his business and political career as youngsters. My little brother and I used to refer to ourselves as poster children for my dad's political campaigns, So it was pretty intense. And you say, what was my childhood like?
Yes, like what schools did you attend?
Oh, okay. Well, I attended a number of schools. As a matter of fact, I counted 5 different elementary schools and 2 high schools. I was really the only member of my family of my generation to attend public school. And the reason for that is my dad's political career spanned across Kansas City. So I subsequently was enrolled in every public school in the district that my dad was a candidate for or that he represented.
So what kind of student did that make you?
Pretty good student. Actually, I was a part of an academically talented program with the Kansas City, Missouri School District. They caused us to be bused to Booker T. Washington. And the old Booker T, that is now Addicts. No, it's not Addicts. It's, I'm not sure, on 24th and Prospect. Which also made my group the first students to be bused. Even though we were being bused within our own community, but it was a separate program, a design program, an experimental program at Booker T. Washington Elementary School.
So in those schools, how would you say your classmates, how would you say they would remember you?
Oh, I think they remember me as a fun person. Not to throw out any names, but persons like Ingrid Gates was a classmate of mine. The Jordans. There are many friends that I have through the years that were involved with that AT class. And I remember one year I was selected the king of Booker T. Washington Elementary School. I have a picture of my mother and I with me being crowned. And you know what's ironic, back then, you know, kids can share resentments because Ingrid came in number 2. And I remember my dad and Mr. Gates clowning. The only reason that I was crowned king is because he sold more tickets at City Hall than Mr. Gates could sell in the barbecue joint. So, you know how that is when you're in school. Whoever can sell the most cookies on the most raffle tickets gets the rewards. But my dad's popularity and his movements through the community, he constantly supported and promoted all of our activities and sports. You know, I did play high school football. I actually Little League football since the 5th grade. So all the way through high school, I was a graduate of Southeast High School in Kansas City. Then I went on to the Oklahoma A&M Junior College in Miami, Oklahoma, which my dad encouraged me to do because our lineage also was from Oklahoma, and he wanted me to get to know my Oklahoma family. So he sent me to school down there for 2 years, but I was recruited by the University of Nevada, Las Vegas. So I went to UNLV and completed received my college degree in business and marketing.
You sound well-rounded. What were your parents like raising you?
Well, you know, because I lost my mother at such an early age, I remember she was what was classified as a whippersnapper. And of course, her Kansas roots, her family, she came from a large family, the Plummer family over in Kansas. They were very close-knit family, you know. So during those periods that my dad and mom were separated, I used to joke all the time, I never saw Watkins because we were always with the Plummer family, constantly, which is normal as I grew up, I realized. But she was a graduate of Lincoln University, nursing program. She was a registered nurse, Kansas City, Missouri School District, and a lot of the information or character that I got about my mom came from Marion's mom, my Aunt Jewel, who she and my mother were like best friends. They hung out everywhere, so she knew everything. And so I learned a lot about my mom from her as I got older.
Right.
Yeah.
And they were well off as well because they were well-rounded. Do you know much about their parents, Olivia Watkins, T.B. Watkins?
Yes, well, you know, T.B. was founder of Watkins, and his brother J.T. was founder of the Watkins Brothers Memorial Chapel. Of course, Olivia, not only before the death of T.B. Watkins, but post-death of T.B. Watkins, she was the matriarch of the family and of the business. And again, we're in the process of telling this historic story of T.B., Olivia, and their descendancy, my grandmother's descendancy from Platte County slaves to a successful businesswoman and civic leader in Kansas City. And we're, again, doing that through the Marion and I in conjunction with the Watkins Historic Preservation Group. And we'll be making that documentary, that information available very soon when it's completed.
What is your best memory as a child, as Bruce Watkins Sr.'s child, advocating change?
Well, I remember At the age of 13 years old, my dad coming home sprayed with mace during the '68 riots. He was right there in the middle of it. And I would ask him, why would you want to go right in the middle of all that stuff? And he said, because somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to lead this movement, this community. And I began to see how deep his sacrifice and his vision was, and to say that someone literally gave their life to a cause of something, I saw it firsthand, where he was willing to do that.
What type of things were up against him as far regarding segregation, civil rights? What type of things did he actually go through, and what did he have to fight for?
Well, their struggle, he and Leon Jordan, which we're going to memorialize in the 60s political pioneer exhibit shortly. They were struggling for their rights basically as men, as human beings, not to only be recognized as leaders in the community, but as men and human beings. The struggle for equality and recognition, it came hard fought, and there were a lot of, they had to organize. They had to get together and come together as leaders in order to fight the segregation that existed at that time when he began his political career.
What did Freedom Incorporated look like? I know you were young when they founded Freedom.
Yeah, very young. Of course, it's well documented with the exhibit here at the Cultural Center regarding my dad being one of the founders of Freedom Incorporated. In order to remove the political factions that controlled the inner city, they had to organize. And they registered over 25,000 folks in our community in order to pass the public accommodations ordinance and fair housing that just allowed people of color to sit down at the lunch counters downtown or anywhere in Kansas City without restriction for color. And that kind of started the movement of Freedom Incorporated. Then they began to get various elected officials, and the more representation that we had downtown, the more power Freedom Incorporated started to get. And many death threats, things like that, emanated from that struggle. My dad's very best friend and mentor, Leon Jordan, was assassinated in 1970. So every day of their lives was basically in jeopardy, in peril. But they never lost sight of their vision and of their dream for not only political equality, but economic equality for Black people in this city.
Would you be able to talk a little bit about your father's education?
Yes. Yes, he it's documented that he attended Rockhurst University. I mean, my dad came from a situation where he was in a boarding school for a number of years through his elementary education back east in the New York area called Bordertown, USA. So his mother, directed his elementary education out of Kansas City, and then when the family returned, he also attended the one-room schoolhouse, Banneker School up in Parkville, Missouri, as well as his brother and sister, being raised in Parkville, Missouri. I'd like to be able to, as we present our manifest and documentation of that history, we hope to include it more in the cultural center's timeline and history of my dad and the evolution of his family from slavery. That's something that we're in the process of preparing at this time.
And during those times, Bruce, what were the hardest times for you and your dad and your mom and your brother, Robbie?
No, obviously at the time of my mother's passing. But that's when my grandmother stepped up. I mean, my grandmother pretty much, she pretty much took charge. And as far as the direction that we as a family were going to go, not only us individually, my brother and I, which was a very difficult time, not only for me and my brother, but for my dad and my stepmother as well. I mean, all of a sudden she inherited 2 grown sons. And of course, you gotta realize when it comes to family composition, my dad devoted his life to this community and to the successes of the black community as a whole. So that took him away a lot from personal family. And growing up with that is a sacrifice that many families who have matriarchs or patriarchs who made significant contribution to a community, oftentimes their families. I've often said, my dad belonged to the community. He was devoted to his family and his business, but he belonged to all of Kansas City and the black community. And obviously, his work, is evident. And I often felt that I really didn't have my dad to myself until he got sick. And then we had that time. We had that time together, and we started another business, and we did some other things together, but his life was short-lived, passing away at 55. So I was at a very young man, age of 23 years old, and trying to absorb as much as I could in my young frame of mind, so to speak.
Now, if you could interview anyone, living or deceased, who would that be?
Well, as far as my family history is concerned, it's my cousin Marion. I mean, she is the matriarch of this family. And many of the things that I speak of, she was there. So now when it comes to my dad's political career, living, would probably be Ollie Gates, who served as his treasurer in the 79 mayor's race. And then when it comes to his business, a professional career, that would have been his brother, Warren, who kind of made it all possible for him to be gone, and to still have a livelihood when he came back. So, yeah, pretty much so.
What do you do for a living?
Well, currently, we have an organization called the Watkins Historic Preservation Group. We're currently working with the Aviation Department, the FAA, and the State Historic Preservation office to tell the history and culture of the 11,000 acres that are now occupied as airport land. It is where my family history and lineage began as Platte County slaves that originated from the very land that the airport is occupied, and that migration from Platte County through western Missouri and to Parkville, Missouri. So we're being asked to prepare that culture and history, which is about a 200-year culture and history that makes the family very much a pioneering family for the region. And there are many other families that have similar origins. And at this time, we're in the process of telling those stories and that history and that culture. That also includes European history and culture and Native American history and culture, and how all that intertwined to make what we know now as modern Kansas City. So it's not only a Kansas City story, but it's a regional story. And the Watkins family is very much pioneered in that respect.
What lessons has your work life taught you? I know that you have been a funeral director for many years. What has that taught you?
Amongst many other things, many other occupations. In the meantime, but no, funeral directing, the family business was always the priority enterprise. But the lessons that I learned: persistence, commitment to your vision, whatever it is that you aspire, be the best that you can be. You know, I was one of the speeches my dad used to make. If you can't be a tree, be a bush. But be the best little bush that you can be. I mean, I used to hear that poem growing up just over and over and over. And I understand, you know, what that means. And I have a certain pride for that family history, being a third generation member of the funeral service. Yeah.
Does the Watkins family have any religious beliefs?
All denominations and cultures are welcome at our family business. We cater to. Now, you know, getting a little bit into my grandmother's history, my grandmother was a Scientologist, primarily as her religion, but she was also a member of Paseo Baptist Church, which was her home church. But she also joined my church, which is St. Augustine's Episcopal Church, and I'm sure she had a few other memberships. So when it comes to religious beliefs, yes, my family believed in Christ. They were Christians, but my grandmother's diverse background and had her exploring other religions and possibilities. But I remember one of the arguments they had about when she built the current chapel, Watkins Brothers Memorial Chapels, was she wanted to put a cross on the pews. And one of the things that they argued about is, Mother, we serve all religions, not just, but she was going to have her cross on the pews, and they're on there, at this time. But again, that's something else that we are going to delve into a little more deeply with our documenting the history of Olivia Watkins Shaw Johnson.
And lastly, Bruce, how would you like to be remembered?
Well, you know, everyone wants to leave a legacy, so to speak, in some regard. I'm blessed to have a fourth generation, Bruce the Third, and we all want to leave something which memorializes our life and careers. And as did my cousin Warren, you know, in his last or later years, has left a legacy of passing on that history and culture that exists in the KCI, is what he dedicated. And I hope in continuing that legacy that we're able to fulfill that obligation. And we're currently making strides at the airport to memorialize that history and culture of our family lineage from airport land. And I hope that to be a kind of a monument to my work or existence activity in with community relations, you know, with the airport community.
I have a question. What would you say to future generations to encourage them to join the struggle for humanity and equality of all?
Well, I say first, learn your history. Know from which you came. You can't get to know me unless you know yourself. First, you know, we celebrate our national heritage and history in our history books and through our holidays and celebrations. But do we know our own family history and culture? And I think we'd be surprised and very proud. And I think it's from a self-esteem aspect. You know that you are somebody and where you came from. And that would be my advice, you know, to future generations.
That's great.
Parkville was a little country town that wasn't too far away. And at the time we were going up there as kids, they had outhouses. So we scared to death of the outhouses because there were snakes. So we would make sure we go to the restroom before it got dark. But it was a little country. It was a little country town. Yeah.
What do you miss about the past?
Oh, I miss all of my family that have passed on. It was very interesting being raised by all my family.
What type of fun things would you guys do?
Oh, they loved having dinners and inviting people over, and it was always a group of us and other families in the community. See, that was the one thing I do remember. The families in the community always were invited to come over. And if we didn't come, they didn't come to our house, we went to their homes. And we did a lot of that. All the different families in the community that you'll be interviewing were some of those families. Yeah.
What did segregation look like when you were a child?
It really wasn't happening. I didn't see it happening. I just remember them talking about the drugstore downtown. I remember those things happening, but I wasn't around it. When I was in high school, I was able to go in that drugstore. We would go downtown after school, and I was able to go into that drugstore and buy something. And I was always told the story about the drugstore and the blacks couldn't sit at the counter and the whole deal. But we were able to sit at the counter when the time came when a teenager going downtown, you know.
And when you were going to school, were you able to go to school with all nationalities?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
and
yes.
What school did you attend?
Well, the high school, the middle school was Holy Name Catholic School. It was located in the North End, and there was all nationalities going to school with us then at the Catholic school. Then I went to the Redemptorist High School on the West Side, and that's where I graduated. And it was Mostly Hispanics and blacks at that time at that school. Yeah.
How would you say you are different now than you were when you were a youngster?
Oh, I don't know. They say I'm the same. Am I? But no, there's really not any difference. I'm just older and wiser. Learned a lot as life went by.
Do you have any traditions that you honor?
Not really. I don't know. It depends. Family instilled into us that the public is very important to us. Customer service is very important to us. Being kind to people, helping people. Those are the things that we were taught as children.
My dad would always say it, and I have to say it just like he said it. She's good at what she does. What do you do for a living? How are you good at what you do?
I'm a funeral director in the funeral service business, and I think back when I was in grade school, they had a job for all of us. We had to do something. We had to, if it wasn't my cousins, they were in the yard with my grandmother. She would be right there digging in the dirt with them. Or like me, they would have me answering the phone, taking notes, helping my dad at the desk, and all sorts of things. But we had to work in the business. Somewhere we did something. So basically, that's it.
You've been trained since you were a little girl.
Yes, I was. I was trained.
So that's how you got into your line of work.
Yes.
They trained you.
Yeah. Push you right on in.
Now, do you like what you do?
Oh, I love helping people. That is my specialty. I am a customer service specialist.
And I do remember a time you were working with the youth. That's a
Oh,
passion
yeah,
of
in the
yours
school
as well.
district. Yes, yes. And that was really something I wanted to do. And it ended up being something that was a break from what I did for a living. Yeah, it was. A lot of people didn't understand that. I said it was therapy for me. It was, because I was dealing with people grieving every single day. And when I went to the school, it livened me up, and I was helping little kids get on the right track, and it all worked out.
What lessons has your work life taught you?
My work life? Oh, it's taught me to be patient and to listen and be more helpful with people. Basically that, you know.
And I know you were the president of Watkins Brothers Memorial Chapel for many years.
Well, yeah, as the third generation came in, that was something that was bestowed upon me. My brother insisted that I'd be that, so I was.
And I know you're still working.
He wanted me to be. Yeah, I still work in the business, but I will be retiring real soon.
That was the next question. Do you
Yes,
plan on retiring?
I know. I saw that one.
And can you talk about, it's only a couple of more questions, any miracles that may have happened in your life during the time that you were being raised?
I don't know how to answer that one. I saw that on the paper,
Yeah.
but miracles, I don't know.
Like a profound spiritual moment, anything that stood out to you as a child that you would say is unique?
I can't think of anything right now.
Okay. And how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, as a person that was true to self, straightforward, helpful, kind, fun. Yeah, that's one thing we did learn. We learned how to celebrate. And when it's somebody's birthday in the family, we celebrate it. Yeah.
And you're known to be the life of the party. I don't know if you have any, if you're part of any boards, but I know that you bring life to anything. What type of boards, if any, are you a part of currently?
Oh, well, currently I have actually, I'm not on any boards now, but I was on quite a few during my business career. Quite a few. and most of them were a part of the 18th and Vine development before it actually came to life. And I worked very hard on that one. But I was a part of a lot of boards, lots of boards, yes, that has built Kansas City. Yeah.
Any other questions?
What advice would you give to young people who are coming on and may take a leadership role in this community? What would you say to them?
Oh, they need to listen to the older generations and hear the stories. They need to hear the stories that you're combining now, you're putting together now. They need to hear all these stories about how people came along, because they will learn something from the past.